Welcome back. We continuously track the latest with regards to the flasher passenger of Air India. The Delhi police currently looking out for him. In the meanwhile, a second such letter that's come in from a top official of the Air India, this time from the Chief of Operations of Air India, Captain R.S Sandhu, who has once again addressed his colleagues, who's addressed the crew members of Air India, and has spoken of how, while the impact of the Air India's initiatives will be cascaded to our guests through various platforms, speaks of how the crew members must encourage, how they should ensure cabin ambience is controlled in a manner that our guests feel safe and comfortable. He speaks of being assertive while dealing with disruptive or unruly guests and do not accept any unsocial behavior. So yet another word of caution coming in from the Chief of Operations of Air India, Captain R.S Sandhu, who's speaking of how there must be an attempt to identify the potential disruption and must communicate to CS and keep the PIC informed. Speaks of how there must be an attempt to follow laid down procedures of handing over the disruptive guests to regulatory authorities on arrival. And Meghna joining us with that detailed letter. And while all of those points are being highlighted by the Chief of Operations of Air India as well, just like was done by the CEO of Air India, Meghna, no apologies so far. And this is just a word of caution being passed on to his fellow colleagues.
Absolutely right about that. There's still no apology coming in to the passenger who had to endure that ordeal for those many years on board the flight. Now you have the operations head who has written out a letter to everyone, and there you have it. This is R.S Sandhu, who has written that this is in line with our initiative to endeavor to scale up our on-board guest experience. We continue to take necessary steps to create customer-centric, safe and welcoming culture for our guests. While the impact of this initiative will be cascaded to our guests through various, it plays a vital role in ensuring our guest experience enhance Air India experience. We encourage you to do that. Encourage, not mandate, but encourage you to do that, to ensure cabin ambience is controlled in a manner that our guests feel safe and comfortable. Be assertive while dealing and communicate to the CS and keep the PIC involved. Follow laid down procedures in handling over disruptive guests to the regulatory authorities, which of course in this case is the DGCA on arrivals. Also ensure that all guests behave in a manner which is conducive to the comfort of the other guests. Now what do we get to understand from this? Remember, here on Times Now, even yesterday, we got you the airlines, Air India's own in-flight manual. There very clearly you have rules that anyone who's being disruptive should not be given a drink. Anyone who's inebriated should be refused a drink. There needs to be discretion of the crew, which needs to be exercised while giving out drinks. If anyone is unruly, then immediately the captain should be involved, and after that the ground staff should be kept on standby. If required, the CISF also needs to be brought in. All of these rules are already there, and it says that we encourage you to do such and such, but it doesn't say what action has been taken after their own crew members violated each and every one of these rules. What action is going to be given to the captain for being the head of the flight where this kind of indecency, and of course there are charges of harassment, sexual harassment also, which have been now filed. Will there be action against the captain, against the crew? That's the question. Airlines, Air India is refusing to answer.
Absolutely. While there's a long list of what should have been done, what must be done in days to come so that no passenger faces this kind of inconvenience, yet again, there is no strict word of condemnation coming in from these top officials of Air India. And most importantly, while there is an admission that all of this must be ensured, that there must be an attempt to identify potential disruption and effective communication must take place, what action is being taken against all of those crew members on board that plane? Arunil joining us with more details. Arunil, while an attempt is being made by the Delhi police to search for Shankar Mishra, the accused in this case, these are the several questions that Times Now continues to ask.
Well, that is right, Christine. Basically, the point number 3, identify the potential disruption and communicate it to the CS and keep PIC informed. Now, PIC in this case is the pilot in command. CS is the customer support. Now, they may have, the Chief of Operations may have laid down these guidelines that have to be followed on board by the crew members. However, the big question here is that these guidelines should have been in place right from the start. If these guidelines were communicated to the crew members, then the harrowing experience of the elderly woman would not have happened. Here, the chief of operations, or be it the CEO's letter also, this is completely a damage control method that Air India is adopting now. They should have given out these point-to-point details right from the start when the Tatas took over, or right from the time when Air India has been operating. It has been operating since ages. So why the experienced crew members did not know about it, or wasn't it communicated to them properly? That is a big fact.
All right, in the meanwhile, another breaking news update coming in. This is the first reaction from the accused via the legal team. So the lawyers of the accused have issued a statement. The WhatsApp messages between the accused and the lady clearly shows, as per this statement, that the accused had received clothes and also the bags were cleaned on the 28th of November. The same were delivered on the 30th of November. The lady in her message has clearly condoned the alleged act and has displayed no intention to lodge a complaint. The lady's persisting grievance was only with respect to the adequate compensation being paid by the airline. Let me go across to Bhavtosh joining us with more details. Bhavtosh, take us through the first version as is being put out through the lawyers of the accused in this case, Shankar Mishra, because a convenient shifting of the blame is being witnessed on his part. He says everything was cleaned immediately and the lady's apprehension in this case was just with regards to the compensation. She had no complaints whatsoever with Shankar Mishra.
Yes, in fact, Christine, they have issued a statement, and the statement that has been issued is by the lawyers. They have said that the only problem that the woman, the senior citizen and the victim in this case had was with regard to the compensation, and the compensation was duly paid by the accused in this case. It was around 15,000 rupees that was paid through a UPI payment system, and when the UPI payment system compensation was paid, the entire matter was forgotten. There are WhatsApp chats between the accused and the woman in this case, and the lawyers have said that they're willing to share these WhatsApp chats, and they have said that these WhatsApp chats clearly showed that there was some kind of understanding that had been reached between the accused and the victim in this case. Now, the case itself is having its own share of twists and turns as far as this high-profile case is concerned. The lawyers, in fact, have now said that they are willing to share the WhatsApp chats, and the WhatsApp chats clearly showed that around 15,000 rupees was given to the victim in this case. And they have said that once this money was paid, the woman decided, the senior citizen and the victim in this case decided to drop all charges. Now, the lawyers say that they are also flabbergasted by the fact that it's only a month later that the victim in this case decided to pursue this criminal complaint and then went ahead and filed a case against the accused. The accused is on run. The police are hopeful that they will be catching him very soon.
Okay, this is once again no less than shocking. Meghna, if you could take us through that first statement coming in line by line and what it reveals.
This is the letter which has been written by the chief of Air India, the CEO of Air India, Campbell Wilson. Campbell Wilson has written a letter to all his employees. He says, repulsion of the passenger is completely understandable. However, the question to him is, why no official apology was given to the victim then, if you say that it's understandable? The second thing that he writes, that we must report the incidents to authorities at the earliest. However, what action was taken against the crew which didn't respond is one of the questions that he must also answer. Air India's top boss says the story is more complicated than has been reported. Then why add caveats to another side of the story, saying that there is another side of the story, it's much more complicated? Why are you questioning the media's reportage instead? He also says, report even if the matter is settled between the two parties. You believe it to be settled. The question is, as claimed, did the crew force the lady to settle, as the lady had said in her complaint as well as the FIR? Also, Campbell Wilson had said, take firm and timely action for non-compliance. What about the crew which violated all the norms? Why no word on the crew and the action which will be taken against the crew? threw the captain for non-compliance of Air India's own guidelines for the on-air crew. Also, Air India has said reflect on what to do if it is faced with such situations. Question is, reflection by the crew sans any punishment, is that going to be enough? Does it help if they sit and reflect about it, if there is no action which is going to follow up on it? These are some of the questions that perhaps this man, Campbell Wilson, who is the CEO of Air India, must answer.
Okay, absolutely. The CEO of Air India says there's so much more to this than what meets the eye. Absolutely shocking indeed, though there is an admission to what may have gone wrong, a word of caution being passed on, no apologies whatsoever coming in from the top bosses of Air India so far. In the meanwhile, let's quickly play out another ground report filed by my colleague Deepak, because Delhi police currently looking for Shankar Mishra. They have been conducting searches at his Bengaluru and Mumbai office as well. Remember, he works for Wells Fargo, and Deepak getting us more details in this report. Take a look.
We're standing on the outer ring road just off Marathalli, and I'm in front of the Wells Fargo building. Now, this is where the accused Shankar Mishra, who's of course been accused of urinating on a co-passenger in an Air India business class flight, now is believed to also operate out of here. Now, he holds a very top position in this company. Now, while we of course try to speak to the security officials at the gate, they say that they do not really identify who this man is, because they say thousands of employees come here on a regular basis. But while we of course try to reach out to a few people who are working here, now they do say that he had come here, he had even spoken to some of the employees, but at this point in time they do not know about his whereabouts. Meanwhile, while we also spoke to the local police here, they say that there's no intimation that's come in from the Mumbai police in terms of getting any sort of help from the local police to pick him up from here if he was here. At this point in time, the whereabouts of Shankar Mishra are unknown, but what we can tell our viewers is that this is one of the buildings where he had of course come, visited and even worked out of.
All right, Deepak, Akanksha and Arunil continue to stay on with us. Deepak, if I may begin by asking you, since we just played out that ground report from outside Mr. Mishra's office, what can you tell us about the conversation you've had with some of the employees of Wells Fargo? Because I believe he's holding a key position at the firm.
Yes, and let me show you, the size of this building to give you an example of how many employees probably work here. At least, I would say about 1,000 to 2,000 employees, even now, even if there are any sort of restrictions that have been put in place, are probably here. And we've seen hundreds of them come out in the last, couple of hours that we've been here. And most of them, of course, are unaware of who this man is, probably considering the fact that he enjoys a very top position in the company. And many of the employees, of course, who've been walking around and we've been meeting are, probably people who are not in regular touch with him, or, he is not somebody who they report to. But nonetheless, some people that we spoke to did say that yes, he, has come to this particular location. He's even spoken to a few employees here in the past, but they're not able to give exact dates to that. And right now, when you ask them about his whereabouts, like I was mentioning that report, they do not have any sort of idea. I spoke to the Whitefield police. Now that's the division under which this particular building falls under. They say that the Delhi or the Mumbai police or anyone has not reached out to them for any sort of help in terms of arresting an individual or trying to get information about his whereabouts. So it's going to be interesting to note how the police really handle this particular case right now, with already the lawyers coming out with a statement on his behalf. So whether he'll appear before the police, and in such a case, how do the police really go ahead? And even if they pick him up, in all probability, the bail is going to be an easy one. So how the lawyers are going to really, use this to their advantage is something that remains to be seen. And probably we're expecting in the next 24 hours some sort of information about his whereabouts to come in from the police department.
Okay, all right.